Let's talk about Borderlands 4 Redux. I've been getting this question a lot, mainly under update videos where people are just unhappy with the state of Borderlands 4 and asking if I or the team are working on Redux mod for Borderlands 4. And sadly, the answer is probably not what you've been looking for. Now, after Wonderlands Redux ended, by the way, thank you everybody for the support on the mod. It is genuinely still unbelievable to this day what we accomplished. I took a step back and put more focus into actual game dev. I entered a few game jams, which I posted the progress on my second channel, and I'm still working on indie games in Unity. But as Unreal Engine goes, I kind of moved away from that and stopped trying to learn it. And I did have in the back of my mind that when Borderlands 4 came out, there would be a possibility of doing the Redux mod, but I kind of phased this out over time and decided that because the landscape of modding would inevitably change, it would probably be best if I instead just focused on smaller quality of life mods that people didn't have to wait for, rather than one big overhaul mod. And so when the game first came out, modding was absolutely cooked. I made a update on this during one of the news videos, but essentially the way we used to mod in Borderlands 3 was basically all but gone now. It had disappeared from our grasps and we just could not do it. There was very limited things we could do, mainly because we didn't have any of the mappings or anything passed in F-model for the game, and it just wasn't looking great. But despite that, there were some mods I was able to get out, and I have posted a bunch of Borderlands 4 mods on Nexus, but they're nothing crazy and nothing compared to the level of ambition or scale that would be needed for an overhaul mod like Redux. But almost immediately at the start of Borderlands 4, I did meet back up with CZ, who was basically my right-hand man when it came to making Wonderlands Redux. And of course, I talk every day to Lewis, who was also a member of the Redux team. And it did take long until we started having discussions about the possibility of an overhaul mod for this game. But we all kind of had the same outlook, which was that if we were going to do it, it would only be done if we needed to, and if we could. And that was one of the biggest problems that we had and still do have, which leads me to the progress update in this video. In Wonderlands Redux, we used two different methods to make the mod. Number one was pack editing. Now, to pack edit, we would open up the game in F-model, pull out the files necessary that we wanted for XYZ change, and we would open them up in a program called UAsset, and we would use this to then tweak and modify stuff to our liking. We would save it, and then we would repackage it back up, and it was ready for the mod. Now, unfortunately, there hasn't been an update to UAsset since May of 2025, and that is currently the biggest roadblock for pack editing in Borderlands 4, is that we just can't do anything to most of the files because there is no UAsset update. Now, luckily, the program is open source, so it doesn't mean it's going to be this way forever. It just needs some kind of Superman to go in and make the update so that we can get in there and start working. Now, the other method we used for making the mods was Hotfix modding, and this was one of the most beneficial ways of making the mod because it allowed us to make tons of changes extremely fast, even with the help of Python scripts, and basically most of Wonderlands Redux is written in Hotfix. And as a matter of fact, what you're looking at right now, this is all of the hotfixes in Wonderlands Redux. There is quite literally millions of characters in this file, and this is a big portion of that mod, and we couldn't have done it without it. Unfortunately, in Borderlands 4, that method is no longer on the table for us. Hotfixes are done completely different in this game, and it's not something I can explain to you without confusing you. So all I'll say is that the way it is done right now is extremely difficult for us to work around, and it does feel like this game is just not made for modders at all. It's not something they considered at any point during development, or maybe they did, and they just understood that they had no choice but to carry on with the way they were doing stuff. Either way, the result is that modding this game is a major pain, and the way we were doing stuff in Redux with hotfixes just does not look like it's going to be on the table anymore, or at least not in the way that it was when we were doing it. Now, there is some hope at the end of the tunnel. We do have a new method, which is SDK modding. Now, SDK modding is something that we are no stranger to. We've had it in Borderlands 2, it came around into Borderlands 3 very late into the cycle of that game. and the SDK is in early stages for Borderlands 4. Now, this is probably, if we can get a mod going to be alongside pack editing with hopefully an updated U asset, the way that we are going to be doing any modding in this game, because again, hotfixing just does not look like it's going too great. Now, there is a whole thing with NCS files, but again, I don't want to confuse people too much on that, so I'm just going to choose to leave that out of this video. But overall, SDK is probably going to be the way going forward. Unfortunately, the reality of SDK is that it is kind of in a cooked state right now. That doesn't mean it's always going to be cooked. It just means that right now it's not enough for us to sit there and go, okay, this is concrete. This is what we're going to start on today. And we're going to start actually developing a full-on plan. It's more of just like we're seeing how things go. And if SDK gets better, then maybe we will get better with it and we will try to use it and we'll try to develop something with the SDK. But unfortunately, as of right now, things just aren't looking too great. And in fact, we've joked a few times that there's a higher probability of just doing a Borderlands 3 Redux V2, because I'm still to this day kind of unhappy with how I developed BL3 Redux. So we kind of been lightly joking around with the idea of going back to BL3, but we just don't know how many people would play that overhaul. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. I do want to provide some updates with the team. We actually have upscaled the size of it, or rather, I say the team, but more so people who are just potentially interested in banding together and making cool stuff together, which is kind of how the team started to begin with. So as I mentioned, right now, it's me, it's CZ, it's Lewis. Frost from Wonderlands Redux, sadly, just due to scheduling, can't return. However, in his place, we do have some very, very talented people. First of all is Smug, who I'm sure if you're familiar with Borderlands modding, you're no stranger to. Smug is extremely talented and someone who I've known for a while now. And Smug is playing around actually with the Unreal Editor, which is very, very nice to make custom UI, which is pretty cool. We've also got Garwood, who again is one of the most well-known speedrunners in the community, at least in my opinion, and someone who is no stranger to SDK modding. He's done a ton of stuff for BL3, including helping us with the crowd control mod. And then finally, we have Pyrex, who I don't even need to list his accomplishments when it comes to Borderlands modding. Most notably, one of the things he did was the BL2 Roguelands mod with Jolt, which was very, very cool, and just a whole mountain of other stuff. So the good news is we've got a pretty sizable team all focused on potentially getting something going in Borderlands 4 eventually, but the brutal reality is that the game just isn't modder friendly, and as a result, it's just led to a lot of us feeling really demotivated to even try anything with it. So I know this probably isn't the update video you wanted to hear, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset at me in the comments already for taking so long to explain all of this and beating around the bush. But I wanted to sit down and have a genuinely meaningful conversation with you guys and give you an insight into where we are, because I've had a lot of people asking me, and it's just something which I don't want to disappoint people, but I also don't want to give you false expectations or drum it up to be something that it's not. The reality is that if we can do it, we will do it, but right now it's not looking too great, and we have a higher chance of just going back to older games at this point, because Borderlands 4, not only from a post-launch standpoint, has been disappointing, but also from a modding standpoint, it's left a lot of us feeling like they don't even want us to mod their games. And that's really unfortunate. So that's where we're at. I hope this helps. Thank you guys for the support, and thank you for all the love on the previous mods, not only for me, but everybody in the community. It's really appreciated, and modding does keep these games going, so it is sad to see where we're at right now. But I hope that this clears up a lot of confusion, and until the next one, I'll check you all later.